Hi, welcome back to Camera Cravings. I'm Andy, and in today's video I want to talk about the Godox VL150 budget-friendly key light that I've now been using for just over a year for both making these YouTube videos and also my photography. And today I wanted to go through what I think of the light as a long-term review, how it's held up to being used almost daily for over a year now, and whether I would buy it again. Coming right up. So for those of you who have been following this channel since day one, you'll know that last year I swapped from pretty budget mediocre lighting or no lighting at all to having a proper dedicated key light, and I couldn't afford to buy something like the Aputure 120D at the time. So I looked for something that was similar but a lot cheaper, and I found the Godox VL150 fitted that bill in terms of being a decent powered 150 watt key light that was white balance to 5600 Kelvin and could also be used for my photography. So I do quite a lot of corporate stuff, headshots, things like that. And I wanted something that could be battery powered off V-mount batteries as well, and that was under kind of £400 or dollars, because the Aputure 120D is significantly more money than that. And I did a review video back in May last year of this light, which got a really great response. Unfortunately, I had to take it down because of a copyright issue with the video. So today I wanted to go through a few points on what's been good and bad about this light over 14 months of use, whether I would buy it again, whether I think it's good enough for what I need and what you might need, and who it's for, and also talk about the things that people commented on my last video. So the build quality, how robust certain things were on the light, problems other people have found with the light. So things like people commenting that they had issues with the light not going down to 0% on the remote control, or not going below 25% on the remote control, and issues they've had. So yeah, just wanted to pick up on all of that stuff and just let you know whether I think it's actually still worth buying in July 2021. So before I get into the main body of the video, I just want to do a quick recap of the features of this light and what you're getting for the money versus the competition. So this light is still available on Amazon and elsewhere for about £370. And similar amount in dollars, a little bit more in dollars. I think it's about $3.99. For that money, you can buy, obviously cheaper lights if you're just starting up in YouTube and you can't afford that, or you're starting up as a video creator generally. You can get lights that are considerably cheaper and will do a very similar job. But one thing you can't really get for cheaper than this light is a V-mount setup that allows you to take it outside, it allows you to take it on location, which I have done on a number of occasions actually. I've done headshots with this and also corporate event photography with this light, and it's worked really well being able to take it out and about. Also used it for interviews, for video work, and again, being able to kind of have it on a rolling stand and wheel it around has been really helpful. So for me, the key features with this light are that it's Bowens mount, which means it's compatible with a whole host of third-party modifiers, and you can put anything from softboxes to reflectors to lanterns, all sorts of things on here, and it works beautifully. I've also used it with older modifiers that aren't Bowens mount, using this fairly inexpensive adapter, which I think I picked up for about £15 or £20 or dollars. This one is by Nice Photo, and it's quite robust. It's kind of metal with a bit of plastic on it, but yeah, it's held up pretty well, and it's allowed me actually to mount a 120 centimetre octabox to this light, which has been great for product photography shoots and things like that. So yeah, it's really flexible being Bowens mount. At the moment, I've got the Aputure small light dome, like the mini light dome on there at the moment, the version 2, which I've found is really great for kind of a small studio setup. The other thing I love about this light is that it's dimmable in 1% increments from 100% to 1%. The only caveat with that being that on the remote, it only goes down to 10%. So yeah, it's something to be aware of. But I really like that you have that really fine adjustability. It's also got a kind of linear brightness curve, so 20% is twice as bright as 10%, for example. It doesn't suddenly like ramp up at the end of the curve. So like some lights, like some of the Aputure lights, I've found kind of, you know, they're quite bright, but not that bright until you get to sort of 60, 70% or even 80%, and then suddenly they're really bright between sort of 80 and 100%. So yeah, this is just very flexible, very manageable, and yeah, really good value for the money. In terms of noise, this has a fan built into it, but I've found like shooting in my studio here like this, even on a hot summer's day like today, the fan really isn't on yet, and I've got it at about 22%. So to light this scene, I'd say generally you can run it to about 35% without the fan really kicking in at all, unless it's a very hot environment. And then even when it does kick in, it's really quite quiet. You won't notice it, really pick it up on your microphones. Not intrusive at all. And actually, if you really want a silent light, Godox now do the VL150, I think it is, which is meant to be a video specific light and is completely silent, but it does mean that the actual light itself is quite a bit bulkier. I'll try and show you a picture of it now versus this light. In terms of brightness overall, I generally haven't used it to 100% very often. The only time that I've really had the power up over like 90% is for photo shoots, where I've used this for some headshot shoots and some product photography stuff. And at that point I have needed to bump up the power, but for video use, I generally keep it between around 20 and 30%. Obviously, if you were lighting a whole person rather than just a kind of head and shoulders shot, then you would want it higher. But yeah, I haven't found it lacking in power, and I'd say overall it's a little bit more powerful than the Aputure 120D Mark II. Not by much, but just a hair more powerful. Colour accuracy is another thing that when I did my review last year, I was comparing it a little bit to the Pixel C100 Light, which I had also bought at the time to do a review on and just test out generally. I ended up sending that light back and keeping this one because I felt like this was a better overall package, mainly because the Pixel you couldn't operate off of batteries. But a lot of people commented on that video talking about saying the Pixel looked better in terms of the kind of colour rendition and the warmth. I think that was because I hadn't set this light up for the actual shot like I have here. I'd actually set the Pixel up, and the Pixel was just generally a slightly warmer colour rendition and warmer white balance light. So I think it's something that you can easily adjust with your camera and light setup. But the colour accuracy of this is pretty good. I mean, they offer a kind of CRI of 96, and I'd say with testing it over time, I'd say it really is quite colour accurate. It's, you know, it's maybe not as good as Aputure, but it's pretty close. And in terms of kind of Kelvin, it's supposed to be 5600, and I measured it about 5650, I think. So it's pretty close to the advertised kind of white balance. I like the fact that in the box you get included quite a lot of accessories. So you get a decent reflector, you get a remote control that you can operate the light with. You also get a really nice padded carry case that you can store the light and all the cables in, and I have used that when I've travelled to jobs with it, and it's really helpful having that. Sometimes I do just chuck it all in my camera bag if there's enough space. I've got a Peak Design travel camera bag, so it's pretty big. I think it's 45 litre, and it just about fits in that with a kind of camera cube in there as well. But when I've got more kit, I do use the included carry case. I think it's really helpful to have that. And a lot of lights at this price point or just below just don't include any kind of case with them. So that's good. Yeah, build quality I've found to be really excellent. As I said, I've mounted some pretty large kind of, 1 meter 20 octaboxes on here, and the gasket rosette large kind of circular knob that's on the side to tighten down the light has held up to that. It doesn't move at all when you kind of really tighten it down. Even with quite a heavy octabox on there, it stays in place. So really been quite impressed with the build quality. As I say, the overall construction is mainly metal on the light, so there's not really much that can kind of break easily. Some lights come with a lot of plastic, like even the spigots being plastic, whereas on this one it's metal. It's got a dual kind of spigot mounting point, which is really nice. I've used that a lot. So for example, I'm using it kind of from the top down in this lighting situation, whereas when I've had it kind of photography, I've used the other spigot. I'll show you some B-roll of what I mean now. The other thing on build quality is it's got a nylon hanger, which you can hang it onto your light stand or wherever you need to. And it's kind of just a thin nylon loop. And one of the comments I had in my previous video was that people thought that would break easily, and I wasn't sure, to be honest, whether it would be robust enough to stand kind of the test of time. And actually, it looks as good now as it did when it was brand new. It really is very strong and hasn't been a problem at all. So again, been really impressed with that. I know some people in the comments on my last video said that they had major problems with the light not turning on and kind of red lights coming up on the light and all sorts of issues. There was a few people who had that. And I suppose the one thing I would say to that is I got this off Amazon from a distributor. I think it actually came from Hong Kong in the end. So yeah, just be careful where you're getting it from and make sure that if you're buying a light like this, you can easily send it back and claim under warranty if it does have any issues with it. I mean, these people found that it was doing that from day one pretty much. So I've not had any problems like that with this light, with my version of it anyway. So I think overall, we can probably say that build quality is as good as any other light in this category at this price point, and probably a bit better, to be honest. Again, with all of the cables, I haven't treated them that well, to be honest, that I've kind of bent them around quite a lot, like where it connects onto the control box and things. And again, haven't had a problem with those. They've all stayed really good and everything works perfectly still. The only issue I've had with it has been when I've had a V-mount battery attached to it, and at a certain power level with the battery quite low, it seems to make a really weird noise, and I'm not sure if that's just something to do with the battery not being perfectly compatible with the light, or whether it's to do with the actual light fitting. I need to test it with other batteries, but I don't have any at the moment and they're quite expensive. So yeah, that's the only negative I found with this light, really. So far, everything else has worked faultlessly and I haven't had any problems with it. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're going to use it with V-mount batteries, you might want to test a couple of different types of batteries with it before you stick to a certain type of battery. So those are the main features that I've really liked about this light. The downsides to this light I want to cover as well, because for a lot of people, having no special effects available in this light is a deal breaker for them. It's not something I've really needed to use for my day-to-day work, but I know some people do want special effects like lightning and things like that the Aputure 120D and some other lights on the market give you. So be aware that it doesn't do any of those kind of special features. It doesn't have any RGB capability or bi-color capability either. So if you want that, look elsewhere. Godox do some RGB kind of versions of this sort of light now, which I will link below. And obviously you've got Aputure and Nanlite and lots of others that produce those sort of lights if you're looking for something with special effects. The other big complaints I have is the fact that this shares a remote with other lights in the Godox range, and therefore you end up with a remote that doesn't really reflect exactly what the features of this light are. And it can be quite confusing. Like if you change like the group on the light by accident, sometimes you can find that the light won't go below like 25% output. And I've had a few comments on my last video talking about that as well. And yeah, the same with the app, just things in the app that aren't actually available on this light confuse people into thinking that they're doing something wrong. So just be aware of that. So now I just want to move on to the question of whether I would buy this light again. And I think the answer to that is yes. If I just needed the same sort of key light, I probably would just buy it again. I found it to be really good. The only thing that would probably put me off buying this light is, as I've said, because it isn't RGB, it doesn't have that flexibility of like bi-colour or RGB colour, and that is one thing I've started to use a bit more in my kind of day-to-day stuff. So obviously I've got like small RGB panels which I can use, like the ones kind of in the backdrop here, and for lighting like products and things like that I use those quite a lot. But it would be nice to have a larger light source like this that I could use for some of that sort of work. So if I was buying another light, I probably would buy an RGB version of this, either by Godox or maybe another brand if there was one available. But other than that, I would say that I've been really happy with this light and I would definitely buy it again. So that's going to do it for me today, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have, please do leave a like and comment below with any questions you have on this light or any others that you might be thinking about purchasing. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it's really fantastic the support I've been getting for this channel over the last few months, and I'm going to be trying to produce a lot more videos in the next few weeks. I had about 5 or 6 weeks where I couldn't produce one due to work and self-isolating with COVID and childcare and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, expect a lot more content and videos coming from me. And if there's anything you particularly want to see in the next few weeks on the channel, let me know as well. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time.